Hey everybody, welcome back to the IHC Craft Room. Today is live number 12 of the Sweetheart Season series, and we're going to be dot painting this super cute penguin onto this wood slice. So I'm just to get started, and we're going to be using all acrylic paint from the dollar store. And this time around, I'm not planning on painting the base of this. I'm going to leave this completely as wood because I think that's going to look super cute. If you'd like to dot along with me today, the download for this image is available in the description down below. So feel free to give that a download and you can dot along with me. So today I'm going to be using my dotting tools, but before we get started, let's talk a little bit about alternative dotting tool options that are available to you. So look around your house and you'll be shocked at how many things you can make dots out of. I have found, oh my God, so many different random things, but mostly the thing that gives you the most variety, in my opinion, is paintbrushes, because there's just so many different sizes of the handles, and they give you so many different, dot sizes. And I've honestly used a ton of different things to dot paint with, like the eraser on the top of a pencil, or the actual pencil, like the lead part. You can dot with that as well. I've also used a glue stick in the past. So have a look inside your junk drawer and think to yourself, can this make a dot for me? And odds are, yeah, it probably can. So use those things unless you decide you want to do a small investment in some dotting tools like these ones. I think this is like $10 off of Amazon, a set like these. So toothpicks are your friends. Q-tips also are super useful. You could leave the cotton on, or you could rip the cotton off and use just the actual stick. Whatever blows your hair back. But also always have Q-tips around when you're dot painting, because they are the thing that's going to keep you safe. They're your bestie. Okay, so let's get started. This wood piece, I've actually varnished it with 2 thin coats of varnish. This is the varnish I tend to gravitate towards. It's my go-to, Liquitex matte varnish. There's a million varnishes out there. Go ahead and pick whichever one you want, but make sure that you put at least 1 or 2 thin coats, because wood is very thirsty and it's going to steal your paint and could make your dots wonky. That's not to say I'm not going to make some wonky dots, but at least I'm making them, not the paint doing it on its own all willy-nilly. So I've already sealed this piece of paint or this piece of wood with 2 coats of that matte varnish so that we can get started right away. But I highly recommend you do the same. And today we're going to be using a chalk transfer method, where what we do is color the back of the image using a chalk pencil. And then we're going to lay it over top of our wood, and using something, you could use a pen or a pencil. I'm going to use one of my dotting tools. You're just going to, with some pressure, outline each of these shapes to transfer that chalk onto the wood slice. And then we're going to dot it. So I'm hopeful that the chalk will be visible on here, at least for me. You may not be able to catch it on the stream, but I'm going to hope so. Now, of the downloadable, I printed this out at 75%, and I feel like that's a really good fit for this wood slice. So let's get started. I am going to, I need to sharpen my pencil, my chalk pencil. I always hesitate sharpening chalk pencils because the chalk cracks on me almost every single time. Okay. So we only need to color where we're going to need to transfer. I really enjoy using this transfer method. It's the reason why I can make so many cute little things, because I can't freehand draw to save my life. I mean, stick figures, I'll knock it out of the park, but but just stick figures. So when I want something a little bit more complex, this transfer method is really, really useful. Okay, let's see where the heart goes here. So let's go a little further in this direction. If this doesn't work and I can't see it, I'm going to use a pencil, a lead pencil instead. Oh, see, now you're starting to play, huh? I don't like it. I have another sharpener here in case this one offends me, which it has. Okay, that'll do. I don't need that much more. Okay. So I would say we've got all the way there. What about up here? What's that, right under the words? Just about? I think we're okay, but let's go just a tiny bit higher. And how far? Pretty close to the edge. Let's do a little bit like this. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to cut this out because it'll make it easier to decipher where we're going to place it on the wood slice. I want to get like kind of close. I'm cutting it a little close. I'm going to make it hard on myself when I'm tracing, but that's okay. Okay. That'll do. So let's see. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to see the chalk. So I'm going to try right away. I'll do a little bit and check. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go back to the lead, which will be a lot harder now that I've cut it out, but whatever, it's fine. Oh my gosh, look how much I got on my hands. Animale. Okay. Always have a wet rag handy when you are dot painting. Definitely useful. Okay, so let's see. Where do we want to place this? I kind of feel like where I already have it was good. Okay. Oh, let's see. First of all, how do I want the piece to go? I think I like that. What do you think? I think that's good. All right, let's try and see. I'm using my 2.5 millimeter one. It doesn't really matter. You just want to be able to put pressure on your design so that it can transfer it in chalk form onto your wood slice. So let's see. Once you've like committed to the placement, really try to commit to it. So place your left hand as your anchor. And I mean, unless you're left-handed, in which case that's probably not a good move. I'm gonna try. Okay, I can see it. I'm sure you can't see it, but I can. So I'm going to keep going. But I will say I need to press harder because I'd like to see it a little bit more. With a little bit more oomph. A little bit of spice. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to move left to right because then I'll remember that I've actually done it. Totally do this however you want. It's up to you. But you want to remember where you've traced and where you haven't, because if you move your design out of the way and realize you missed something, to try to line it up again is tedious and a challenge that I don't want to deal with, frankly. Okay. So I want to try to remember to get every piece done. This to me is the most tedious part of this process, is the tracing. But it's absolutely also the key. I mean, unless you can freehand draw, in which you can just copy this. That'd be cool. Yeah, it's faint, but I can see it. I wonder if I should have pressed harder with the chalk. Oh, well. At the end of the day, yes, this transfer is the reason why we can do this design, but it's also just a guideline. It's giving you, okay, a heart. So if your heart comes out wonky in your design, that's okay. You can adjust it as you're dotting, right? Like, and that's also a really good skill to try to work on, the ability to kind of straighten out things that don't come out the way you want them to, you know? Look at these cute little feet. I also need to, I have to remember to go back and do the inside. I can't really see that. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, that worked a bit. I can see that line better now. Yeah, this is the frustrating part about working on a surface that's light and you're using a chalk pencil. I mean, absolutely a lead pencil would have worked very well. The problem is that I find it harder to remove lead after the fact when I'm trying to erase the lines. It's a lot more challenging than removing the chalk pencil. I really can't even see it. I can see the hearts really well and part of the body, but this part's just getting lost. Maybe I don't have enough chalk on there. I think that's actually exactly what the problem is. Okay, I'm going to come back to that part later. I'm going to keep tracing because if it's just that one spot, then I'll take it off and try to line it up again. Exactly the thing that I said to try to avoid is what I'm going to have to do. Typical Mary. And if I need to, I'll just put the lead pencil on like the spots that won't transfer properly. I like these little blush. Okay, did I do this part? I don't know. So let's do it again, just in case. Well, we already know that part's not going to work. So I'm going to do this one. I think I already traced this heart. Yeah, it's the first one I traced. That's okay. We'll do it again. Okay, I think I did everything. I even think I did the hand. So let's see what we got. If I look close, okay, that's the face. Those are the eyes. Oh, I don't think I did the top of the head, like this part. Let's see. Okay, that's better. You know what? I think I'm going to try adding some lead. Unfortunately, I don't have a choice. I can't really see it. So if I can't see it, I can't dot it, can I? Nay, nay. So this has happened to me before. Actually, very recently this happened to me. That's not a big deal. The only thing is that when I do have to erase my guidelines later, I will need to reserve a little bit of time for that because it's going to take me some time to have some patience and erase the lead lines. Actually, I don't think I've dotted against this wood, this specific wood. with varnish yet. So maybe it'll be easier to take it off of this. But I did something recently. I can't remember what it was, where I had to use lead as well. And in erasing it, it was quite the headache. Also, I even think the chalk was a bit of a headache recently. Oh, well, whatever. I mean, you just take your time about it and try different erasers. I have like a soft eraser, like the kind you would use when you were in school. And that works very well most of the time. But I also have one of those really, really like rough and stiff erasers that, I mean, back in the day, they used to call them erasers that would erase ink, like pen erasers. And having that really coarse eraser was really useful when I was having a struggle with these guidelines. So keep that in mind. All right, let's try this again. I actually think I am going to erase a little bit now because I don't want the chalk to compete. Stay. Stop moving around so much, bro. I don't want to have to try to line it up with the chalk. There's no point. It won't work. Okay. Beautiful. Take two. Okay. I'm pleased with the placement. You're about... That's good. I'm happy with that. Let's get started. We'll see how this works. I'm going to start with the heart again and see if the transfer works better now. Much better. Although there's still a little bit of the eraser. Okay. I think that's pretty much lined up, but if it's not, I'll deal with it. It's just one little spot. Okay, we are ready to party. Actually, no, I don't like where that is. There, that's good. All right, I'm going to start up here, and we're going to do the exact same thing we already did. So literally, take two. Okay, good. At the end of the day, just remember that the guidelines are exactly that. They're there to guide you. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always make adjustments as you go. You can change things if you want to change them. And keep in mind that anything that has like a really tight or intricate pattern is going to be much harder for you to transfer over in a dot form. It's going to be harder to see. Like, I'm going to debate about what to do about these little eyes that they have. It's a line of black like that might get lost. We'll see. I'm going to try. Sometimes you're better off not using a dot in a situation like that. Maybe I'd use like a solid line to make those eyes. That's probably what I'll do, actually. Even when you try to like really follow the line, it's kind of hard because the wood underneath it's flat, but it's still wood. And this is real wood. It's a wood slice. So you can feel the texture of the grain, which is why it's so pretty. But it also makes it harder to like trace really straight and stay on the line. It makes your dotting tool or whatever you're using kind of bounce a little bit. But it's okay. My hand's hurting a bit. Let's see. Maybe it's just not going to transfer well onto this surface. I mean, usually when I paint on a wood slice, I use a chalk pencil for that. No, that's not at all what I meant to say. I use chalk paint as a background, and then I transfer my image on top of the chalk paint. So it's very possible that this surface is part of the problem as to why it's not transferring as well as I'm used to. which is fine. We'll pivot a little bit. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's good enough. I got enough of the shape to see what's going on. You're missing a little bit here. Yeah, that's not going to fill in. Okay, what do I feel like I need to see more? This curve. I'm going to keep this image nearby me anyway, right? So if it doesn't really come out, like if the transfer doesn't come out super duper clear, it's not a big deal. I'll be able to refer back to the image itself, but you know, having the guideline is useful. That's why we're taking the time to do this. Okay, you can see the hand holding the heart. See, I did miss where the heart's supposed to be. So where should the heart be? It's this one that's upright more. Can I erase that? Well, on a positive note, it's erasing really nicely. So hopefully that will stay the case for when it's time to... Oh, what are you doing? When it's time to remove the guidelines later, you know what I mean? Keep them fingers crossed for me. But it erased really well. Okay. The little hand. Let's see. Oh, it still wasn't quite right, was it? Oh, that's all right. And then this. I think we're in good shape here. This down here is just not going to transfer well for some reason. But it's okay. I got the gist of it. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. I'm sorry that that's so tedious, but it's super important. It's the actual like #1 step to doing this. If you don't transfer your design over and you're not able to freehand, which I'm not, then the struggle will be real. Okay, so I'm going to get started by doing the outline of this entire image, and then we're going to fill in. And because I want to not be doing this for 6 hours, I'm going to be using a bit of a bigger dotting tool than I would normally for an outline, because I don't want to spend a ton of time outlining. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to use a 2mm, which is this pink one right here. I would compare this to maybe the top of a shish kebab skewer or something. Maybe not quite that small, but a small paintbrush back. That would be a good comparison. So have a look around and see what makes sense to you. Hi there, Guadalupe. Thanks for joining. We're going to make a super cute penguin tonight. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with the pink, actually. And that means we're going to start by mixing a color, because I only have this Tutti Frutti, which is like very, very pink. And I kind of want this to be a little bit milder of a pink than that. So I'm going to start with white. And then we're going to mix in some of that pink. Okay. Oh, almost dropped it on the table. What is a disaster? Oh, I did drop it on the table. Way to go, Mary. That's okay. I'll clean it up in a minute. This is already a good pink. I don't need to add any more. I just wanted it to be a little bit lighter. It doesn't need to be like completely blush, but that's like a neon pink almost, that Tutti Frutti, which is beautiful. It's a really vibrant pink, but it's not really the vibe I'm going for. This is more like it. Yeah, that turned out really nice. Now, let me just say for the record, when you're stirring, you want to scrape the bottoms and the sides, but also you want to not do what I'm doing. You want to stir much, much more slowly. because when you don't stir slowly, you introduce bubbles and air into your mixture, which I have most definitely done, and I will pay for it because I'm going to need to pop all the bubbles when they happen. Keep an eye on your fingers. If you have paint on your fingers, it will transfer onto your design and you're going to be very unhappy. So keep an eye on your fingers. You'll see that I check my fingers pretty frequently when I'm dot painting. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the hearts. And I'm going to start with that 2 millimeter. Let me get in the center here. Okay. So let's keep this guy around for inspiration and we're going to get started. Here we go. I already dirtied my finger again. Stop touching things, Mary. So you'll notice that I go back into my paint after every dot. That's because I want my dots to be uniform. I'd like them to be roughly the same size. It's not just the size of your dotting tool that's going to determine the size of your dot, but it is part of it. And in order to continue to get the same size dot, you need to have the right amount of paint on your dotting tool. So by going back every time and replenishing your paint, you are allowing your dotting tool to make the same size dot. The other thing that impacts the size of your dot is the amount of pressure that you use and how much contact the surface of your dotting tool has to the surface that you're dotting. So if I were to not put my dotting tool all the way down, I'd get a smaller dot. I'll show you what I mean. See how small that dot is? You probably can't even see it because I just barely touched my dotting tool to it. Now I've refilled my paint and I've gone back and I have pretty much the same size as the other dots. Okay, now that I'm coming up to ending this shape, this is going to be just the perfect amount for me to put one dot in the middle of it, like to complete this. But if I was unable to do that right now and I was scared that I might touch one of my other dots, here's a quick tip from Mary. Leave it. Just leave it alone, walk away, move to something else and let it dry and then come back and place that dot later. Don't put that stress on yourself. It's totally unnecessary. You can come back and do it later. But I definitely have enough room to not be paranoid. So I have a few bubbles in my dots that we're going to pop right now. Hi, Tony. Thanks for joining. We're making a little penguin. A little cutie patootie penguin. Okay. Wonder bar. Now, let me think. Should I make this one a little bit darker? Oh, now we're talking about something cool. What if I started doing a little bit of ombre? Maybe I'll make this a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. I like that idea. So let's add some more pink and change that purple. This is another great instrument to use for dotting. These little dowels, you can get them at the dollar store. Knitting needles or crochet hooks would also be really good. There's lots of cool stuff you can use from around your house. I think we need to go a little darker than that. I'm going to end up overflowing this little paint pod, trying to get to the colors I want. Oh, well. I think that's a tiny bit darker. It doesn't actually seem like it. Okay, one more time. Okay, now if you don't change colors, I don't know what to say. I just put a whole ton in there. Also, a reminder, if you're just joining, first of all, welcome. And secondly, don't stir your paint this fast, okay? Because all it's going to do is it's going to stir it. It'll be nicely stirred, but it's going to have a lot of bubbles in it. So, you know, just a heads up. Okay, that is definitely a bit darker. I'm going to put this to the side because I'm going to use this to stir again. Okay, let's see. I hope you ended up darker. Oh, yeah. Significantly so. That's good. Yippee! So now we're going to have to add some more after. I might have to dump some of the paint out that I already have in here. This is going to overflow. I buy these little paint pots from Dollarama. I think it's like 3 come in a pack for a buck or $1. I don't know how much the things cost at the dollar store anymore. They're never $1, so $1.25, $1.50, $1.75. I feel like I'm what is that? Like at an auction. $1.75. I can't do that. I will stumble over it. And I'm sure you're thankful. You're welcome. I'll stop. So yeah, going back and forth and replenishing the paint that's on your dotting tool is one of the main steps you're going to want to try to master when you're learning to dot paint. You'll also notice that I'm leaving a sizable gap between each of my dots. This is also a good calling card to our friends, the beginners, because you don't need to have your dots super close to each other, making you paranoid that they're going to bleed together. It's totally unnecessary. You can leave a nice sized gap. It gives you the opportunity to learn spacing. And also, I mean, personally, I like seeing the background kind of float through my dots. So there's that. But there's also little tricks that you can use if the space bothers you. We can fill it in with maybe some smaller dots or, you know, there's ways around it if it bugs you. But when you're new to dot painting, give yourself the room to do things like that. You want the space to be able to avoid your dots running into each other. Okay, let's try to make this a little dark. I think I am going to actually dump some of this out a little bit. Hold on. Please hold. Okay. Maybe I dumped out too much now. Into my very colorful garbage can. I still don't want to use just the straight up pink because I'm going to do that on this one, I think. On the Tutti Frutti. Tutti Frutti. Oh, yeah. That darkened it up real quick. I don't think I need to add any more. That's actually darkened it up quite a bit, I think. Maybe a little bit more. Solo un poquito más. Solo un poquito más. Okay. All right. I think we're good now. I'll leave you. I'm going to use the full Tutti Frutti for that heart. So that should be it. I don't think I'm going to need to mix anything else. Okay, let's continue. That looks almost the exact same. So no mi piace. I want it to be a darker pink. So what I'm going to do to take this dot off is I'm going to twist my Q-tip and pull upwards as I do so. And what that's doing is it's drawing the paint while I swirl. And there we go. It's gone. I need to stir you. I just threw my stir stick out, but guess what? Voila, it's back. Is it dirty? No, it's fine. Okay. Let's see. I really thought I had darkened it up, but clearly not. It looked identical. The mistake that I made is I should have put a drop of each of the pinks on my dish so that I could see. Actually, didn't I rest it on the dish? Let's see. That's a little darker, but not much. Okay, we're almost at capacity over here in this little jar. So at this point, I think we're better here. Let's see. Why did I do that? That introduced white again. One more time. One little squirt. It's about to overflow. So this is the last option we have here. Look at all these bubbles I'm putting in here. It's going to be fun popping them after. Toothpicks work really well for that, by the way, if you don't have one of these like sharp tools that I have. All right, let's see. I still don't think it looks very different. All right, well, I'm going to live with it because I want to leave the full pink for that bottom one. You know, that bugs me. I don't like it. All right. All right. What are we going to do about it? We're going to clean this off and we're going to try one more time. I'm going to dump out some more of this pink paint and try to darken it a little more. I think we're going to end up wasting a ton of time on the color pink. But hey, if you know me, you know how I feel about pink. I don't mess around when it comes to pink. I love me some pink. Okay, I just dumped a bunch of this paint out. So now we have lots of room for you. Oh no, there's a big clog of something nasty coming out of here. Hold on. Gross. It's like paint boogers. Ew. All right, I just put a ton of this in there. So now if you can't stay dark, I don't know what to say. This should be borderline the actual Tutti Frutti color. Yeah, this is definitely darker. This is definitely darker. Okay, we got there. It took 10 years. Okay. I hope it's actually darker. At this point, if it's not, I'm giving up on it. Because I'm like starting to actually, like my temperature is starting to rise. I'm getting annoyed. Okay, good. It's noticeable to me. Santa Maria. I would have totally lost it if not. It was worth it. It would have irked me if the bottom two were the same color. It would have like really got to me because I'm weird like that. If you're not, I mean, by all means, do you. And also I'm jealous because it must be nice to not be bothered by things like that. Also, you don't need to turn your design around or your project around. You can leave it in its place, like facing vertically, and then move your hand around to dot more. I have a hard time hovering my hand. I don't have the strength in my hand for that. So I like to rest my hand on the project that I'm working on. And because I'm right-handed, I find it easier to keep track of not placing my hand in a bad spot if I'm working on the right side versus going this way. Because, you know, I can keep my hand kind of off to the side versus having to hover it over dots that I've just painted and I don't want to accidentally touch. But if you have the hand strength to hover your hand, you really don't need to rotate your design the way I'm doing it. It's purely just a convenience thing for me. So these dots, the outline dots, are the ones that take the longest because obviously we're drawing the design. Once we're done drawing the design, we are going to, we're going to start filling it in. I should have moved that a little down. I think I'm going to move that dot. It's funny, you can go 3 or 4 projects without making a mistake and having to clean up. And then in one project, I've already removed several dots from this one. It's funny how that happens sometimes. But I'm constantly making mistakes and correcting them. Like literally. All the time. It's not a big deal. And if you can't fix it, then learn to live with it. Odds are you're not even going to see it after you're done with this project. You won't even realize it's there anymore. Okay, that's good. Now I want to go down further than I was before because of the peak of this heart. There we go. Now, something to keep in mind is when you have guidelines in place, it's easy to, your brain will substitute spots for you. Sorry, I need to be quiet when I do this spot because it's a little tight. Okay, good. Your brain is going to fill in gaps for you and you won't even realize it. So when the time comes that you come to erase your dots, have your dot paints around and your dotting tools around because you might find some gaps once those guidelines are gone. And then you can fill them in with some little dots and stuff. So no big deal, but just keep it in mind. Okay. Should we do this last heart before we move on? Yeah, I think so. Get all the hearts out of the way after all that pink. So we're going to use some Tutti Frutti. I don't think I'm going to need this stir. Look at this chaos I caused over here. It's very messy in the IHC craft room today, guys. That's okay. Okay. So once again, if you're a beginner dot painter and you want to get more comfortable with the different ways that you can dot paint, doing a project like this one is really fun, in my opinion. It's a great way to practice some basic dot painting skills and get something really cute out of it in the end. It might not be perfect. You're still learning, you know, some of your dots might be wonky. You might get some that blend together. But it doesn't matter because you're practicing, right? You're practicing these skills. Like this skill of being able to get your dots to be pretty much the same size. That's something that you learn over time. I definitely wasn't able to do that in the beginning. I wasn't able to do a lot of things in the beginning. And I still don't consider myself an expert by any means. I would call myself, I don't know, I guess an experienced beginner. And I don't really push myself beyond that point because I enjoy this. I enjoy the calmness and the tranquility of dotting and making something really, really beautiful. I'm honestly amazed by some of the things I've made, especially because I've never been able to draw. So never in a million years, if someone had come to me, I don't know, even 10 years ago and said, hey, guess what? Guess what you're going to be doing in 2026? You're going to be dot painting on a YouTube channel. And I'd be like, yeah, okay. What's dot painting? I didn't even know what it was. But it's actually turned out to be a real love, like a real true love. And it's helped with a lot of things in my life. And it's given me something beautiful to work with. And I've fully and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to keep on doing it, you know? All right. We've got our hearts done, ski. So let's start working on the outline of the penguin. So we have two options. We can either dot the outline of the white inner, or we can dot it as the black outline and then fill in the white. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to use the black to outline everything, and then we'll fill in the white instead. Okay, so that means we need black next. This is really going to pop now compared to the pink. Okay, so we want, I'm just going to keep an eye on the way this is set up. So here's a good example of what I meant by it gets lost. You see this little like triangle of white that shows you the edge of the balloon and the edge of the penguin? It's going to be impossible to get that little bit of white in there, like to leave that little tiny gap. I'll try, but it's pretty much unlikely that that will be a noticeable gap. And that's just what happens when you're using dots. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're not going to get that precision, even though you're seeing very precise dots. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you understand. Okay, this is an example of having to hover my hand. Right now, this pink heart is very wet, and so I don't want to rest my hand on it accidentally. So I'm actually kind of cupping it and resting the weight of my hand around it. Always stay aware of where your dots are. And also, this size dot doesn't take that long to dry. And the smaller the dot, the faster it dries. So these are mostly dry now, I would say. Doesn't mean I'm going to rest my hand on them, but I would say they're probably quite dry. Okay, I don't trust this dot. The gap between that black dot and the pink dot of that heart is a little too close for my comfort. So I'm going to leave that alone and let it dry, and I'll come back and put in that last black dot later. So that's what I meant earlier about trying to keep your shape without getting stressed out about, oh, I have to complete this shape. No, just leave it. It'll dry. We'll come back and do it later. It's not a big deal. Take it easy. The other thing to consider when you are talking about the size of your dots, which we have been, is yes, it's the amount of paint you have on your dotting tool. It's the amount of surface that makes contact with your design, but it's also the amount of paint that has built up on your dotting tool. So I don't think I've made note of it today, but you may have noticed that every once in a while I stop and clean paint off of my dotting tool. And it's because the buildup is starting to cause my dots to get bigger than I want them to be. So nay. And what we'll do is just remove a little bit of that buildup paint. You turned out wonky. Okay, good. Like right now, I'm going to clean that off. So down here, the guideline is a little muddy. So we're going to kind of eyeball it. These dots are coming out much smaller than the other ones. I don't know why. These like 3 or 4 came out super small because I was talking too much and not paying attention to what I'm doing. But that's a really good example of what I mean. This is how you practice. This is how you get used to it. And then you end up with this like super cute thing. It's going to be so cute. Like, look how cute it is. It's going to be so cute. Wait till I draw in the eyes and the nose. That's when it's really going to be like, oh, he's a cutie pie. I'm sorry. I have a tendency to turn things to the side a little bit, like a little bit on an angle like that. I wonder if I tilt my head and that's why. I have no idea. I should put a mirror in front of me. Okay, what's happening here? This is an arm, right? Okay. So I'm going to do one more dot here. And then what? Should I go up one more? I think I'll go up one more. And then we're going to go towards the heart base. And it seems to go around it like this. So let's do that. I'm going to go this way. Around. And one more right here. Okay. We'll see how that looks when we fill it in. Muy bueno. Okay, so the outline part is done. Now we're going to do the inside outline, which I don't know how to say that any other way. Inside, outside, inside. The heart and the eye are kind of touching on my board where it's not here. I don't think there's anything I can do about that because I don't want to warp the inside of the penguin. So I'm just going to avoid the heart, but we'll be aware of it. I won't have a little bit of that black. Well, yeah, the dot itself will be that black gap, so it's fine. It's fine. And then we're going to go in and fill all of these up with varying sizes of dots to give a lot of like contrast, and it's going to be really cute. Although this gap, this black line is really small, so I might end up I might just use a larger dot and make like a line of it as opposed to putting a bunch of little dots. I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get there. Our little penguino is coming alive. Something that we're probably not going to do for this project, which is another dot painting skill that is absolutely worth practicing, is called walking the dots. And that's when you do not replenish the paint on your dotting tool. You fill your dotting tool with paint once, and then you dot, 3, 4, 5 times without refilling your dotting tool. And that causes the dots to get smaller and smaller as the paint diminishes. And that's called walking the dots. It gives you a really nice tapered from large to small dot range. And I really enjoy using that in a lot of my projects. And it's definitely a skill to practice and master. Okay, so we're going to go like just beside the pink. It's going to be a little bit warped, but it'll be all right. It'll still be cute. So I think the nose and the eyes, instead of dotting them, I think I'm going to like use my dotting tool as a paintbrush. Okay, my dots are getting bigger, so I'm cleaning off my dotting tool again. Hey, everybody. If you're just joining, welcome. We're dot painting this super cute little penguin tonight. And if you're enjoying this, I'd love it if you could smash that like button. It really helps me get in front of more people. It's not easy to get in front of people these days. There's a lot of content out there. So it'd be nice if people who enjoy this can find me. And then we can enjoy it together. All right, I am coming up on the end of this. I think I'm just going to put one dot in that gap rather than stress myself and try to put 2. Beautiful. We have fully outlined. And now this, remember how there was that little gap there I was scared to put a dot in? I'm going to clean off my dotting tool, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in now because they're all dry. So I can be a little bit more brave. All right, we are in nice shape here. I think I'm going to finish off with the black, and I'm going to go ahead and draw in the eyes real quick. And then we're going to move on to, I think I'm going to do the feet before we start filling in. Okay, so what I mean by I'm going to use my dotting tool as a paintbrush is I'm just going to put a little bit of paint on my dotting tool, and I'm going to use like the smallest one I have, which is this 0.8 millimeter. And I'm going to put some paint on it, and then I'm going to kind of do this like as if it's eyeliner. Okay, I want this straight so that I can see. Very cute. What do you think? Cute. Super cute. All right. Let's work on the feet and nose, which are going to be like a golden yellow. I only have, let's move you for a second. I have this really, really bright canary yellow, which is too bright in my opinion. So I'm going to mix it with this tan a little bit, this cashmere tan, and try to darken it a wee bit. I don't need a lot of this. So I'm going to use this really small paint pot. It's going to be too small of a paint pot. I'm going to end up angry and it won't be the right color. Wow, Mary, way to be negative. I'm really good at that. Okay, just a little bit. I kind of want this to be like a mustard. What can I use to stir you with? Here. I just don't want this crazy bright yellow. It's too much. That little bit of tan. You know what? Maybe a tiny bit more tan. Solo un poquito más. Okay. That should do nicely. Now, these feet are tiny. So what I think I'm going to do, instead of outlining them, I'm going to make them into 3 larger dots. So I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, this is a great color. That's perfect. Okay, wonderful. So first we're going to do the nose. But what I mean by that is if you look at the feet, it's like 3 little dots almost. So I'm just going to do dot, 3 dots, like larger dots to represent the feet. And I think that's going to look beautiful. Okay, let's do the nose because I want to complete the face because it'll just make it look so cute. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to use this like a paintbrush instead of dotting it. And then we'll fill it in with some paint. So this nose is kind of off center now because I had to adjust the arch. So we're going to have to adjust the nose a little bit too, but it's going to be fine. So it's kind of like a triangle, a rounded triangle. Right? It's cute. So cute. You know what? I'm a little bit off center here. Sorry, guys. I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I'm not paying attention to being on the screen. Apologies. I just realized I still didn't move it over, so I'm going to make it a little larger. Fill that in. So cute. So cute. Let's get that. I just want to level that out a little. What do you think? Should I make it a little bit more pointy? I think so. I think I'd like it to be a little less rounded here. That's cute. Oh, you're a cutie pie. Yeah, you are. This could be a little curved too. Very nice. No bubbles. All right. I'm very pleased with that. Okay, let's do the toes real quick, and then we'll start filling everything in because we'll be done our outline. So, like I said, I want to do big dots for that. So this is the largest dot I have in this stylus format. I have this type of dotting tool as well. I call these rods, and I got these from a company called Happy Dotting Company. They're available online through Etsy, and I think she also sells them on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. Angela is her name, and she's lovely. I also get my art stone molds from Happy Dotting Company. And we're going to be doing some love bugs next week. which is going to be a blast. I highly recommend you come and hang with me next Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're going to be making some oval love bugs. I'm really excited. Okay. I can't really see this, so I'm going to one. Do I want it the same size or a little smaller? Let's start with smaller because you can always make it bigger. Smaller is the right call. And a smaller one over here. Yeah. Oh, that looks fantastic. Mi piace, mi gusta. Okay, so this one, same thing. We're going to put a big one right here in the center. And then we'll do a smaller. Again, you see how different the size of the dots are? And that's because I'm not putting the dotting tool down as much when I want to get a smaller dot. So we're getting less, what's the word I want? Contact. Less contact of the dotting tool to the actual top of the item, and it's going to make your dot a little bit smaller. So that's all we need for this yellow. We've now completed the full outline, except for one small thing I just noticed, which is this. Remember, we just talked about that gap there. Well, I do want to put it in, and it's going to be with black. So this is going to be hard to do with this bigger black, this 2 millimeter, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to be all brave. Let's see. If I go like here, and then one here, and then one here. Right now, that makes sense visually. But once we start filling in dots, you're not going to be able to differentiate that from the other ones, I think. I could be wrong. Lord knows I'm wrong all the time. But just in case I'm not. Okay. What should we fill in first? Should we do the hearts or should we do the penguin? Let's do the hearts first, I think. Actually, what is the most convenient with my hand? I guess we'll do the pink hearts first on this side and we'll work our way around like this so that I don't have to worry about my hand touching anything. All right. Oh, you know what I just realized? I totally screwed myself because I can't fill in that color because I made it darker. Unfortunately, are we going to try to replicate it a little bit? Yeah, why not? Oh, I have another. Oh, sorry. I know I just shook my camera. Apologies. This is an older one that I used for something else. So let's add some white into that. I don't have a problem with the inside of the balloon or even the inside of any part of this being a slightly different color. In my opinion, that adds a bit of contrast and interest, so I don't have any issue with that. But if I could get close to the right color, I'd like to try. That seems like too much white, but watch how quick this pink is going to eat up that white. Gosh darn it. Actually, I think this might be pretty much the color I need. Okay, let's hope so. I'll put you aside for a second. It looks like it. Let's see. Okay, so to fill these in, I'm going to be using larger dots. For these smaller hearts, not so much the 3 millimeter, but I will go for like the 2, which is what I use to outline. So let's do the 2.5. Where's my 2.5? Right here. 2.5. This is going to be the biggest dot we're going to put in there for right now. And I'm just going to put them at random. Just like that. Tap, 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 tap. Don't fill in the space. Don't double touch if you can avoid it. And all we're doing is putting dots in to make it look pink. We'll go back with a small dotting tool and really fill it in later. But in terms of right this minute, that's all that this needs for right now. Actually, there's one more spot I want to put a dot. Just right here. Right there and right there. I'm going to let this dry and I'm going to go back in later with this really small dotting tool and place really, really tiny dots in there. So now we're going to move up to the next one. That's going to be interesting. How do I make you? because I'm not making a completely different color. Let's see if I can reuse this spot. What if I make a concoction? Remember all that paint that I dumped out? Yeah, wouldn't that be convenient right now? Yeah, it would. It really would. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Life's hard. I'm going to use a little paint pot for this. Oh, geez, that lid was no joke. I'll pour just a tiny bit of this into here. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Simmer down. Too much. And then we're going to put some white. Now this one needs to be a darker pink. So let's see if we can get there. A little bit more pink, I think. Oh, I used this one, so let's use this. So it goes to show you, pay attention. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't think about the fact that I had to fill in the hearts after. I think this could use a little bit more straight tutti frutti. And after this, I'm going to stop. And if it's too light, then it'll be light. It's not a big deal. The inside can be a little bit lighter than the outside. It doesn't really matter. It'll give it some texture and variation, so it's not a bad thing. Okay, let's see. For this one, because it's bigger, I am going to start with a bigger dotting tool. I'll start with my 3mm to try to get a big dot, or a bigger dot than what we've been seeing so far. Get out of here. It's almost identical, this color. Mary, 2 in a row, girlfriend. That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. I'm really shocked that I was able to do that. Okay. I think that's it for big dots in here. We're going to give that a chance to dry a tiny bit, and then we'll come back and hit it with some smaller dots. We can do a little smaller right now. I think I'll start with the top of my dotting tools. All of the tops of these dotting tools have the same size, I think. It looks like it. And I believe it's a 1.25. But I'm not sure. So you see how I'm just filling in any spot where I can put a dot, I just put a dot. And little by little, it's going to make the entire balloon look pink. So cute. Keep an eye on your dots. If you are as impatient as I am and you stir your paint as quickly as I do, you're definitely going to get bubbles in your paint. So be aware so that you can pop them. Because if you don't pop your bubbles, they're going to pop on their own, and they're going to do it at the worst time. They'll do it when your dot's almost dry. So then that pop is going to stay in there. You're going to see it. It won't self-level. Whereas right now, if you pop them while they're still wet, they'll self-level and you won't even know that it was there. So don't abandon your bubbles. Pop them. Pop them, mofos. Alrighty, we got quite a bit in there. Let's move on to the next heart. Okay, I'm going to put your hat on. Une chapeau. We'll put yours back on too. We're going to need to use these again because we're going to go back in and fill them in a little bit more. But for right now, we are in good shape. I'm so impressed with myself that I was able to match that color. Like, that never happens. I just want to do big dots right now. Now, if you're really new to dot painting and you find this a little too difficult, I would highly recommend using bigger dotting tools, using bigger dots. It's the smaller dots that make it feel way more intimidating in the beginning. It's a psychological thing, in my opinion, because it's basically the same thing, but it gives you a little bit more of a chance to work on spacing when you've got bigger dots and you're not looking for these tiny, tiny little pieces of added interest. You know what I mean? I'm going to add a few more dots in. Actually, we'll use the top again, a 1.25. And I'm walking the dots, but not in a straight line. So I'm just doing multiple dots until I run out of paint or the dot's just too small to be seen. And I'm putting them all over the place. Oh, I think those two, yeah. Oh, I made a blob dot. Can you see it? I made a blob dot right there. So I could clean that up, but I don't think I'm going to, because it's in enough of a spot that I could potentially mess up more than 1 or 2 dots. So I'm going to leave it. Look at my hand. Always pay attention to if you have paint on your hands, because if you don't notice, you're going to get it somewhere you really don't want it. I always have paint on my hands. It never fails. Okay. I've actually seen some dot painting artists that like legit have so much paint on their hands, I don't even know how they function, and they never get any on their work. I don't know. It's like they're like angels, because I can't do that. I'm very messy. I make mistakes all the time. But this is a perfect example of the way my philosophy is when it comes to dot painting. You saw earlier, if you were here, and if you haven't been here from the beginning, feel free to watch the replay later and catch the beginning. But I definitely had to correct and fix a number of my dots. I erased a few dots today on these hearts. And yet I'm leaving a blob dot that I could have fixed if I really wanted to. Why? What's the difference? The difference is convenience, honestly. I don't really care enough to stress myself out. This was going to be one of those things that would end up being stressful. I'd erase it, and then I'd accidentally touch another one, and then I'd accidentally touch another one, and I'd end up erasing like way more dots than I intended, all because of a little blob dot that no one's going to notice but me. So, I leave it. I don't care. I only fix the things that are going to bug me. So there's a little bit of Mary philosophy for you that I hope you enjoy, because to me, dot painting should be relaxing and fun. And look at this beautiful, cute little thing. Like, get out of here. How cute is this? All right, let's finish off the inside of the black. Now, remember these big dots that we did here with the 3mm rod? I think that's what I'm going to do all in here. Instead of trying to fill these in with little teeny tiny dots, I think I'm going to put a big dot all the way around and then maybe fill in a few little black, like tiny dots after. What do you guys think? I think that's a good plan. I'm going to have a sip of water because I've been yapping my face off. And hydration is key, friends. Mostly as you get older. Santa Maria. You have no idea how many things dehydration makes so much worse. Okay, this has been sitting here for a while, so I'm going to top it up a tiny bit just in case it got dry. It didn't, though. I can see the way it absorbed it. All right, here we go. You guys, why are there so many of you around? It's getting very messy over here. I don't like it. All right. Let us begin. So I want to take a nice chunk of paint on my dotting tool so that I can get as plump of a dot as I can to work in here in the forehead. Because we're only going to be able to fit a few of these big dots in here. And the rest are going to be medium sized. I already had to make that one smaller. Okay, so we can put a big dot here in the hand. That's good. Where else are we going to put a big dot? I think maybe over here. I feel like this 3mm is going to be too big to do what I said. So I'm going to drop down to a 2.5, which is the white one, I think. Yeah, 2.5mm. Do you guys like my ghetto little like papers that I stuck to my dotting tool so I knew the size? As soon as I bought these dotting tools, I immediately printed out like the sizes and stuck them to the dotting tools. And it's been this way for, oh my God, how long have I had these? Easily 6 or 7 years. This is going to be too big already. I can see it. So I'm going to do some walking the dots in this. This is a good example of where it's really useful. So I'm going to go ahead and start my larger dot, which with this in the spot that I can see is largest, which is right in this spot over here. And then I'm going to work my way upwards so that my dots get a little smaller, and I'll work my way downwards as well. So we're going to start in the biggest spot so we can put the biggest dot. So right there, and that rhymed. Okay. And we're going to do it in the same way in the other direction. Beautiful. I'll do the same on this side. It doesn't bother me to overlap. If it bothers you, go ahead and erase and adjust. This is another good example of one of the things that I don't stress about. I've overlapped my dots a tiny bit on the outline. I don't care. It's not a big deal. Okay, so we'll come back and fill these in a little bit later. I'm going to go to the hand now, and we'll do a few more in there. I'm going to let that big dot dry, and then we'll dot around it later. I'd say the same for all of this. I think I want to wait on the rest of the black. We're going to fill it in some more. Because let me tell you something, these tiny dots that we are going to do with this super tiny dotting tool, the 0.8mm, that's what's going to really make this whole thing pop, because it's going to fill in all of this color. So you won't see as much of the wood grain coming through. You'll still see it, but not as much as you're seeing it now. And we also haven't done our white dots yet. So I think we're going to move on to the white dots next, actually. Now, this guy has little pink hearts, blush over here. It's kind of hard to make blush. Like it's going to be a solid dot is what I'm saying. So I can use my super, super light pink, which is that one there, which is what I will use. And I think I will put a tiny dot on the edge of the eye, but I don't want it to be super big. Should I make it super big? Should I make it like a 3mm? Okay, we're going to try it. We're going to try it and see if we like it. And if I don't like it, I'll erase it. So right about here. And one over here. Do we like it? Yeah, it's cute, right? I'll leave it. Besides, it's going to blend into the white dots now because we're going to start putting a bunch of white dots in there. So let's get started with that. We're doing our first pass of big dots, and then we're going to go back and start filling in very shortly. All right. Lots of paint on the dotting tool so we can get really plump dots. And since I have a lot of space here, I'm doing what I call the triangle. So I'm basically just dotting 3 dots. They go from the biggest to the smallest. And to not have them be in a row, I dot them in a triangle, so you can't even really tell. Okay, remember though, we're trying to get the biggest dots out right now. So I'm going to go ahead and keep adding more big dots than small. The hardest part for me when I'm doing a project like this is you'll find if you've watched other videos of mine that I often say trust the process. And that's because there's a certain point where it starts to look just messy. And you're like, oh, Mary, I wish you hadn't done that because it looked better before when it was just the outline. Trust the process. As we continue and we keep filling in more and more, you're going to see what I mean. But there is always a spot. It's almost like when you're growing out your bangs and you get to that spot where you're just like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to cut my bangs. Don't do it. Wait it out. Trust the process. You'll regret it if you don't. Trust me. Man, bangs. Every once in a while I get it in my head I need some bangs. I haven't done that in a long time, actually. Interesting idea. All right. I'm done with the big dots in the white. So I'm going to pause on white. And we're going to do this last heart. And then we're going to start over. We're going to start again, left to right, and start filling everything in with the little dots. So very little and petite. Okay. We're going to do a few big ones. In tutti frutti. Come on, I want some big dots in here. So we'll fill it in after. This one is the hardest for my brain to interpret because this is the one where I had to draw it 2 or 3 times because I kept moving the stencil or I guess stencil is the right word. So it's not quite the way the drawing was, and I can tell. It seems a little warped to me almost. But I can't really tell. It's because of the pencil mark behind it. So we'll see. Once I erase all my guidelines, I'm sure it's going to look great. It already looks great, and it's not even done. So, hey-o. All right. We have completed big dots, in my opinion. I don't think I'm going to need this anymore, hopefully, because I think we've stirred all the paint we're going to need to stir. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling in now. So I need the really light pink for this because we're going to start with this heart up in the corner. And because I try to go left to right, that heart's almost fully dry at this point, which is going to make it easier for me to put in those really tiny dots. Because if I do make a mistake and I dot over an existing dot, it won't turn it into a blob because it'll already be dry. All right, here we go. Now, you may not be able to see these because when I tell you they're tiny, they are very, very tiny. I actually remember the first time I made a dot painted item. I used a art stone and I actually bought a dot painting pattern off of Etsy. And by the way, if you want a dot painting pattern like that you can follow step by step and what tools they used on which step, absolutely check out Etsy. There are some really awesome dot painting artists that sell their designs for a song. Like it's not much. Actually, I have no idea. I haven't looked at that in a long time. But in the past, I would buy a design for like $3 maybe. And I bought this like whole design package from an artist. I wish I could remember their name. Z Dots or something. I can't remember. It was a really long time ago. And it was like a group of like 10 different patterns. And they told you what dotting tools to buy. So you knew, use this tool for this step and use that tool for that step. And they had guided images and stuff. And it was so useful as somebody who didn't know what they were doing. And I just remember sitting down with that paper and my dotting tools and my paint and freaking out that I was able to do it because it was so cool. They turned out so good. Following those patterns, it was like, wow, I can't believe I can do this. And I remember showing it to my husband and he was like, how did you make those dots so small? And I'm like, bro, it's the tool. The dotting tool does it. It's no different than me dotting a big dot. It's the tool that makes the size small, right? So, okay, I feel like I can't fit any more dots in here. I have fully filled this with teeny tiny dots. Let me turn this over so you can see. This is a light color, so it's going to be harder to tell. When we do these other ones, you'll see more. But as I fill them in, it's going to be a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You're going to keep getting these really nice. Okay, which was which? I think this was the third one. Oh, yeah, that's the middle one. Too many lids. I'm getting confusa. Okay. Is that right? Is this the middle one? Or is this the middle one? I think this is the middle one. I'm going to have to stir it and check. I lost track. That's what happens when you do a lot of yammering, you know? How are we going to tell? Which one's darker? You or you? I'm going to put them side by side on my dotting pad. I think that one is darker. I think this one's darker. All right, we'll see. We'll see if she's right or wrong. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to turn this again. This time sideways. Yeah, I'm right. Yippee, yippee. I'd be able to tell within the first few dots if it's the right little pink. So remember when we were talking earlier about leaving space between your dots and maybe feeling a little bit insecure about that gap? I personally am not. I like leaving a gap, but if you are, this dotting tool that I'm using right now is the thing that you can use to fill in that gap for you. So when you have a big gap in between, you can go dot, dot around it, dot, dot around it, and it makes like a pattern, which is super pretty. I've done that on more than one occasion. But where there's really no reason to fill in the gap, if you ask me. Guys, we're getting there, eh? We're almost done. A little bit of fill in here and there. Let's say maybe another 20 minutes or so. I don't know. I'm really sucky at guessing the time of how long it's going to take to do something with dotting. With any craft, really. Often my husband says when I'm about to do a live stream, how long do you think this one's going to be? And I'm like, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. 2 hours, maybe an hour, 45 minutes. What can I tell you? It's a mystery. Okay, I think we have filled this one in as much as possible until I erase guidelines later, and then I might find a couple spots I want to fill in some more. But for right now, I feel like we've done what we've got. We've done what we came for. Let's move on to the darker pink. And we're going to fill in that last big heart over here. Let's turn you this way. Okay. This feels a little bit light. I think this might not be the right pink. We're going to see when it dries. It can't not be the right pink. I've used all the other ones. It's a mystery. No, I think it's going to dry the right color. Because, you know, paint always dries a little bit darker. For the most part, I think. Oh, I totally missed my paint pot. I went a little rogue there. All right. We are reaching the point of no more room for dots over here. I'm going to end up double dotting or overlapping a dot if I continue trying. Let's see from this angle. I swear I thought I touched that heart. There's a couple spots actually that I can see. Between these two. All right. We are in some very good shape over here. We've got our balloons filled in, except for this guy. We'll get you last. Yeah, that looks great. I'm pleased with that. So let's go ahead and start filling in the outside of the penguin body, so the black part. Now this one, we're going to be using really, really small dots on and some somewhat middle-sized dots because we only did really large dots in some areas. It's a little bit of pink in there. Okay. So I think I'm going to turn it this way and we'll start with the hand. I feel something on my hands. I'm trying to be careful with the paint. All right. I have one rag here to wipe my hands with and one to wipe my dotting tools with. Try not to mix those up because it'll end badly. So let's go ahead and start filling in. All around those big dots. We're going to put a bunch of little dots. The tiniest dots you ever did see. Remember we were talking about leaving that gap for the hand? Well, I didn't remember to do that, and so I put a dot there. And I can't fix that now. That's a dot from earlier. It's dry. I'm just going to live with it. But that's a perfect example how a small thing can change your pattern, because now we won't have that little white gap here in the corner because I put a dot in it. Well, there you go, guys. I know up until this point you thought I was perfect in every way, but turns out not so much. The illusion has been clarified, dispelled, revealed. So there's not a lot of room for a ton of dots here, but enough that I can fill it in a little bit more. And you see how it's making it just a little bit darker, just a little bit, you know, more of a black fill. I'm so proud that I have not touched these feet. I was really scared I was going to mess them up. But they have stayed beautifully. Okay. It's getting messy right here, so I'm going to avoid that a little bit. We got the gist. We just want it to look like it's black and filled in. It doesn't need to get all messy. Just to say I put more dots in, you know? Less really can be more in some cases. Okay, so now this whole spot is going to be black. Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to try to put a few bigger dots. Let's flip this over. Put a couple of bigger dots here. Okay, and then I'll fill in. Let me clean that off actually. Man, this dotting tool is insane how tiny it is. I would compare this to the top of a toothpick, by the way, if you're dotting at home without dotting tools. A toothpick would definitely give you these super tiny, tiny dots as well. So keep that in mind as an option. That's the heart. We want the dark just around it. Okay, that's good. Do you see how it's filling in so nicely now? Okay, here we want a few bigger ones. So I'm flipping this over to use the 1.25 side. Because filling in a big area like that with just really tiny micro dots is annoying, first of all, and doesn't look as good as you think it would look. So you're better off adding a few larger dots and then filling in with those micro dots. Like that. That's great. Now we'll go in with those teeny tiny dots. All right. We're almost done the spot. I'm going to add a couple right in here. That looks great. I'm going to fill in this little spot now. Since I already messed it up anyway, I might as well make it look intentional. Okay. Let's have a quick look. Is there anywhere else we want to put a dot, a black dot? Because I am going to stop on the black if I don't need to add any more. I think we are pretty much done until I erase the lines. Okay. Next, we're going to do the white so that we can continue moving to the right. So let's add a little bit more in here. Where's my white? Where'd you go? Here you go. Hi. All right. For this one, I'm going to do the top side first, that 1.25 side, because again, we did big dots here before, so we can fill in medium-sized small dots now. It'll fill a little bit more real estate before we want to start putting in those micro dots. But I am doing these in threes again, so it is giving me some smaller dots as well. We might not feel the need to go back with micro dots later. We'll see. Most likely, yes, though. I like to go in with those micro dots because it makes a big difference, in my opinion. The important thing is to not dot over. It's one thing to dot over the color you're already doing. So if I put a white dot over a white dot, it's not ideal, but it's not a big deal. Whereas if I accidentally dot over a black dot with some white, that is glaringly obvious. And that is something that would end up bugging me and I'd have to fix it. I'm intentionally just doing this half right now. I realized I had started on this left side, and I'm going to just fill in this left side first so you can see the difference between not filling in with little dots Look at the difference between this side and this side. Do you see? Now, you don't need to fill in all these little ones that I'm putting in. That looks still good. But if you have the patience and the time, it really does make a big impact, in my opinion, when you fill in those little teeny tiny dots. It kind of helps the background fade into the background because the foreground has all of your attention with these little teeny tiny dots. That's tight. I'm going to go back with the small one there. I also want to make sure not to accidentally touch these pink little cheeks, these little blushing cheeks. We are reaching the point where I'm going to not be able to continue with this tool because it's too big and the gaps are too small now. For this area, this white area, I'm going to come back and do one more pass. I'm not going to do that on these. I feel like they're complete. And also the black, I might do a couple of extra dots once everything's dry and I'll have another look at it. But I'm not intending to do a double pass on anything other than this white. And that's because this is such a big surface of the image. I've put in a lot more spaces in between the dots, so there's more to fill. And I do want to go back with that really small micro dot to fill in a little bit more. Okay, so this is where I'm going to pause on the inside white. And we're going to move on to this pink heart before we go back and finalize the white. What do you think? It's looking cute, right? So cute. Okay, let's add a little bit more. So you definitely don't need a lot of paint when you're dot painting, which is probably hard to tell because of how much paint I've used tonight. But you really don't need a lot to dot paint. It's just that when things dry, I add a little bit more paint on top to make it a little bit easier, but you don't need to do that. A little tiny bit will go a long way with dot painting. Unless, of course, you're using really large dots. For example, at Halloween, I did this dot painted pumpkin. It was like an abstract, almost mandala style pumpkin. And I used really, really large dots for that project, which was super cool and a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to do something like that again. But it also means that those dots take a really long time to dry and they take a lot of paint. So you need a deeper palette for something like that. I think I used a paint palette like this, which I just happen to have handy. It's a lot deeper of a cavity, so that I could use those really large dotting tools. And it's a vibe all on its own. So I highly recommend, don't feel like you have to make every dotting project some teeny tiny dotted project. It's absolutely not necessary. You can use big, massive dots. If you're interested in seeing that tutorial, Mary from the future will put it up in the corner for the replay. But you can find it on my channel. If you check out my live section, there's so many of these now. I've been on a live stream kick for the last few months, and I'm going to continue that into the new year. Well, we're in the new year already. I don't know who you're talking to, Mary. It's almost February, FYI. Okay, I'm going to fill in a little bit more on this heart because I feel like it could use some of these micro dots. Where'd my yellow thing? Oh, that was the yellow one, duh. And then I am going to consider this heart done, and we'll go back to the body a little bit. And then at the very end, we're going to just look it all over and see, is there any place that is screaming, put a dot here, put a dot here, in which case then we'll put a dot there. And if not, then we're going to leave it. And I'm going to let this dry for a full 24 hours before I do anything else to it. The next step is going to be erasing the guidelines. You can't really see them much anymore, but I know they're there and I want them gone. And it's really important that you erase your guidelines, first of all, when your dots are beyond dry. They have to be Sahara Desert, last cough kind of dry. So that when you start really using an eraser to get those lines off, it's not going to strip your paint. And that's ultimately the thing. And I will repeat that over and over again in every one of my dot painting videos because I have destroyed more than one of my projects with impatience because I was like, they're dry. No, they're not. Let them sit for a solid 24 hours before you do anything. Then you can erase it. And I highly recommend that you do erase your guidelines because especially if you are going to be putting varnish in your or on your project to seal it, which I highly recommend that you do, that varnish is going to lock your guidelines in. So you'll never be able to remove them once you varnish it. So absolutely make sure that you varnish before, or sorry, you erase your lines before you varnish. Okay. I feel like I can't see anywhere else I want to dot inside this balloon or inside this heart. I think that's great. All right, let's go back and do a little bit more of the white. Hopefully that's dried a little so that we won't have as many blob dots. What do you think of the black? You think it's filled in enough? I think so. I don't think I need to add anything else. I might do a tiny few of those mini ones later just because. Okay, so I'm going to start again left to right. Actually, I'm going to go top to bottom, which is still left to right, but it'll be top to bottom on the penguin. And I am really looking at filling in any teeny tiny gaps, keeping an eye on dots of another color or like these little lines of the eyes. I want to make sure not to dot on top of those. It's also a challenge to not outline certain things. Like I don't want to outline the nose with white dots, but I do want the white dots to butt up to the nose or the beak or whatever that is. So I have to find a balance between basically dotting a line around it and just putting some strategic dots near it. No, my dotting tool's too full of paint. That's going to end badly. If you want to make a super duper tiny, tiny dot, obviously you need a small dotting tool. Okay. But you also need to add the tiniest amount of paint on your dotting tool as possible. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. My dotting tool is completely clean right now. Okay. This is what I mean by a tiny bit of paint. Can you even see that? Probably not. But like I put the tiniest bit of paint and I'm going to get the tiniest dot because of it. Now I'm going to put in more and get way more paint and I'm going to end up with a significantly larger dot. Even though this is a super small dotting tool, the amount of paint you put on your dotting tool is critical to the size of the dot you're going to get. So always keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, I need a really small dot there and my dotting tool is a little too big, those are the factors you want to look at. You want to make sure that you have the bare minimum paint that you need on your dotting tool. And you also want to make sure that you don't completely press down because that surface contact is going to increase the size of your dot. So if you want a tiny dot, then you want to barely kiss the surface with your dotting tool. And that's how you're going to get the smallest of the small dots. And practice. Dot painting requires a lot of practice, as do most things. But I'm not somebody who enjoys practicing dot painting on dotting sheets. Like, you know, like those practice sheets where it's like, walk the dots 14 times in a row. No, thank you. Boring. I would rather do something like this where I can practice the skill and end up with a project that's completed and cute. Even if it's a little messy because I'm learning the skill, who cares? At least you have something really cute while you're learning instead of test papers you're going to end up throwing away. I feel really strongly about that. I talk about it a lot. All right. I want to get up around those eyes a little bit. So I definitely need to clean off my dotting tool and add just the tiniest bit of paint. And we're going to go for some teeny tiny. Yeah, beautiful. All right, guys, we are in the home stretch here. I am in my last few white dots. And then we are going to assess each section quickly and see if there's anything we want to add in before we call it good. Let's see. Is there anything screaming at you? Put a dot here. Put a dot here. No, over here. Look at me. Okay. All right, let's do a quick assessment because I think we're pretty much done. Let's see. I could probably fit a few more in here, but I'm not going to because I like the way that looks. I'm happy with the black as well, although I wouldn't mind a few more dots in there. So let's do that real quick. Really, really tiny dots again. Just to kind of add to that. That filled in look. Okay, I'm happy with that. What about the white? No, that's good. I'm happy with the cheeks, the eyes, the little nose. This heart's in good shape. Those feet turned out so perfect. Guys, I don't know what to say. I'm very pleased. I consider this done. Fait au complet. Oui. So we have completed our super cute little penguin on a wood slice. What do you think? Is he cute or what? I love the way this turned out. It came out super cute. I really enjoyed making this with you. And this is a really easy technique that you can use to transfer any image onto pretty much any surface you want. I do it over and over again. I have so many different projects where I've done this. Actually, just last week, I made this super cute. Let me show you because it's nearby. This keepsake box. Like, how cute is this? Hold on. You scoot for 1 sec. And I finished it and I'm using it for my receipts right now. But how cute is this little box? And I bought this at the dollar store. Love it. Anyway, this is a project that we dot painted last week. And if you're interested in doing this project with me, Mary from the future is going to put the replay up in the corner over here. But let's go back to this guy because he's so cute. All right. There we go. We have completed this beautiful dot painting together by taking a printout, putting some, in this case, lead pencil on the back, using that to transfer the image onto the wood slice, and then using acrylic paint from the dollar store to dot it all in. This project cost, I would say, about $5 to complete. The wood slice, I think, was $3.50, and then let's say a little bit of the paint. So a big jar or a big bottle of paint like this size, which is what you get at Dollarama, it's 118 mils. This size bottle will last me, I don't even know, but I want to say 6 months to a year, a really long time, depending on the projects you're doing. But for dot painting in particular, you don't use a whole lot of dot paint or of acrylic paint. So you can really stretch that out. And it makes dot painting such a budget-friendly, like, crafting and creative experience. I really enjoy it. And I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful and sweet looking little penguin for Valentine's Day together. I continue to dot paint live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join me again next week. We're going to make another beautiful project together. And check out my channel if you're interested in learning more about dot painting. I have a ton of beginner-friendly videos in this live kind of format where I talk your ear off, or I also have some that are in the shorter format that are like 10 to 15 minutes long, and it's like a voiceover. But worry not, I talk all the way through that too, because I mean, I'm Mary and that's what I do. So anyway, I hope you had a good time making this with me tonight. I had a blast. If you did enjoy it, please consider telling a friend, sharing it, liking it. Anything you do will definitely help me out, and I'd super appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to get crafty together. Toodaloo!